Hi guys, so I've always wanted to paint a large miniature from Games Workshop, and yeah, the Great Unclean One seemed the perfect sort of miniature, well, large miniature, to have a go at making, painting, assembling, all that good stuff. So I bought this one from Chaos Cards. There is a link in the description, guys, and there's a discount code down there as well, and it will give you 5% off any order over £30. So yeah, if you're interested in getting some miniatures, check out Chaos Cards. So this is definitely going to be the biggest miniature I've ever assembled. So obviously we need some snips. I've got some, well, as you can see, good old cheap ones. I've got a scalpel with a blade that's been in there months and months, and it's disgusting, but it's good for scraping things. And some good old glue. As always, start off by, well, cutting these bits off the sprue. So obviously all the sprues I always keep, just in case I want to make something out of good old sprue goo. If you don't know what that is, well, check out some of my older videos, and you'll see me, well, making things out of these sprues. So obviously this dude, nice and large. What I do like about this, there's a few variations on obviously different unclean ones. So there's a few different heads, a few different weapons and bits they're going to hold, which is pretty cool. So usual thing I've kind of done, I've just gone through, cut out some of the larger bits, then got the instructions, and then worked out what bits, well, join to the others. So before we do that, obviously this is where my nice sort of blunt scalpel comes in. And yeah, it sort of scrape off any of the mould lines or any of the bits where it was connected to the sprue. This guy wasn't too bad actually, it wasn't too many. So where possible I try and get them off prior to assemble. But yeah, sometimes when I do put it together, then I'll go through and I may well have missed sort of the odd one here or there. But I say this guy didn't seem to have too many bits on him really. It probably was mostly just the bits that are attached to the sprue, which was pretty cool. So the glue I'm currently using is the Tamiya Extra Thin, which is really nice because obviously you can put it on like I am here and then put the bits together, or you can sort of dry fit bits together and then put the Tamiya glue on. Because it's the extra fine one or extra thin, it just sort of seeps into all the gaps and then yeah, bonds it all together, which is pretty cool. So yeah, just putting that all over the place. So I've got the instruction booklet out because, well, it is like a bit of a jigsaw puzzle, this one. I possibly couldn't have done it without the without the instructions. But so yeah, there we go. So you can see I'm sort of putting it on the join and then giving it a good old push. Obviously this kind of like melts the plastic together, which is really nice because then it does hide quite a lot of the seams. But as you will see later on, there are some seams that couldn't be hidden, and I do give them a bit of a fill-in, which is pretty cool. So I have recently bought quite a few sets from Chaos Cards. Just because I really want to get more into the kit bashing. As I say, it's a lot of fun. And as you'll see, well, coming up, obviously I do chop this guy up quite a bit. But because I wasn't too sure what bits I was going to chop off, that's kind of why, as you can see, I am almost fully assembling the dude. Just because, yeah, I wasn't sure what bits to cut off. So yeah, variety of heads, which is pretty cool. And obviously bits and pieces to hold. So this is the guy that I kind of like the look of the most. I think I preferred his head to all the others. Yeah, I preferred his head, although I did like the idea of the big sword. So I'm not sure where that sword's going to be used next. But yeah, obviously my bits box, I have recently bought a large sort of stacking system for boxes. Yeah, so I've got lots and lots of bits to make things with. So guys, any ideas of what I should make? Let me know. I have recently got a lot of vehicles as well, as I want to make, well, some kit bashing vehicles. Although as you can see, obviously in this dude's case, I'm kit bashing a person into a vehicle. So obviously that was meant to be his arm, but I've gone for the arm that's kind of looking like it's holding, well, it's holding a dagger, but I wanted it to look like it was holding a joystick, because obviously as you'll see, he's riding his mobility scooter, and that's why I've gone for the joystick one. So when I made my Warhammer 40k chest set, I got the Space Marine patrol box, again from Chaos Cards. And obviously in that was a vehicle, but obviously with the chest set, well, there's no vehicle really required, so this was sort of left over. And again, guys, obviously because I don't play anything other than Warhammer 40k kill teams, all these vehicles and obviously larger sort of GW miniatures, I'm never ever going to use, which is why, yeah, I thought I'd have a go at cutting two up and merging them together. I say this big guy, I don't know what his movement speed is, because I can't imagine it being very quick. So yeah, I thought giving him some wheels, well, or in this case a hover sort of vehicle, yeah, he'll be able to get around that board a lot quicker. So yeah guys, if you are squeamish to plastic being cut up, You may want to avert your eyes soon, as obviously I get to town on the Great Unclean One and this Impulsor, and yeah, really go to town cutting them up, which actually is a lot of fun. It can be a bit scary though when you are cutting something up, because you don't want to make a mistake, because if you cut it up it's kind of difficult to get it back how it was before. But yeah, so obviously this vehicle, I kind of watched the instructions on how to assemble it, but obviously because I knew I was going to be cutting it up, I didn't want to assemble too much, because then that'd make it harder, well, to cut the thing up really. But I did know that obviously the side bits I was going to keep, because the idea was to sort of cut it, well, not exactly through the centre, but cut obviously both sides off, just so I could see the hover parts. So that's why those bits, yeah, I did kind of like assemble sort of fully, just because obviously they would definitely be seen. And then yeah, so it's a case of somehow this guy is going to be in between this vehicle. I didn't want him sort of sitting sort of right in it. I kind of wanted it to be sort of cut up and sort of merged into him. So in a recent video I tried cutting something up with snips and also made a right old mess. So someone mentioned about getting one of these sort of jeweler's saws. That's exactly what I've got. So obviously it is lovely and fine, and yeah, it cuts a treat. It goes through really, really nice. The only problem is it did sort of get stuck a few times, so trying to get the thing back out, yeah, very, very fiddly, even by trying to saw it sort of coming back out. So as you'll see, I managed to got a few bits cut with it before I had a bit of a technical issue, which you'll kind of see coming up in a minute. So yeah, this is obviously where the scary bit kind of comes in when you are kit bashing and, well, you are taking off so much. So obviously I didn't want his legs in this, but it's a case of how sort of near to his stomach do I go. Obviously I definitely wanted to keep the mouth in, because obviously, well, the mouth looks great, so that was definitely wanting to be staying in. But yeah, then it's the case of how wide to go. So any bit I do sort of cut off this dude, as in like big bits, main bits, I'm keeping all of those. So his legs, his feet, I have got. Where I'm going to use them, well, who knows? But it's always worth keeping bits. It's like bits of wood. You never ever throw away a bit of wood, just in case. But it might come in handy for something. And yeah, definitely the same sort of case. Yeah, with all the grey plastic, especially as it's not cheap. So you don't want to be throwing away, well, what is the equivalent of money. So yeah, I've got him ready, and so using the good old little saw again. Yeah, so it started off, it went really, really well. It was cutting through him like a knife through, well, hard butter. But then when I got so far in, it kind of got caught, and I tried as much as I could to sort of wiggle it out, gently ease it out, pulling the grey plastic apart sort of to give it room to come out. But yeah, it kind of didn't. And it's funny fact, it was this bit coming up is where it went right in, it went nice and deep. And then yeah, I couldn't get the thing out, and so I was doing really gently, but it snapped, and there we go. So yeah, that was kind of short-lived. It didn't really get a whole lot done. So last time I used snips, but there's no way I was going to do snips again, because that was just a nightmare. So I got my Dremel tool out, and you're probably thinking, why didn't I use this in the first place? Yeah, to be honest, I kind of forgot I had one. It's in a cupboard. This is where, guys, obviously I work from my desk. So a lot of tools I've got are in a variety of cupboards, and sometimes I forget what I've got. And this was one of those such things. So yeah, but obviously this made much light work of it, and yeah, not too bad at all. So yeah, obviously off of his foot, and yeah, it fits like a glove on a foot. So kind of pleased with how this is looking. And yeah, happy to go ahead and take his other foot off to the same sort of distance. Sort of trying to keep him sort of symmetrically in the middle. I say, so obviously these are the legs, feet I've got. Where I'm going to use them, who knows? But I'm going to try somewhere to get them in. And then yeah, just a case of gluing what I've got together. Obviously there are going to be gaps galore, but that's fine, because we can fill those up with bits and pieces from the model. And then I can use some sort of like the old air drying sort of clay stuff. But yeah, so obviously for this I'm using super glue, because I wanted this to sort of glue and dry, well, nice and quick, because obviously the other glue is great and probably a much stronger bond, but it does take longer to dry. So yeah, it got to this stage, and like I say, gaps everywhere. So I am going to use parts of these legs to sort of cut them up, just to sort of, well, hide any of the big gaps, and I say any smaller gaps I can then sort of tidy up later. But yeah, loving how he looks. And yeah, certainly had fun with this guy. So kit bashing is so much fun because you are making something new out of other things. So there's a few gaps obviously on the tank I had to fill in. And just using a bit of the old plastic card. As you can see, some proper good old measuring here. Yeah, none of that measure twice, cut once. I'm just, yeah, winging it, bodging it, and then see how it goes. So I kind of cut them a little bit over the size I need, so there's a bit of excess there. Obviously, it took me a while to work out which way this thing went round. Yeah, it was crazy. Obviously, just cut it out, and it didn't feel like any which way I put it in felt right. But yeah, so eventually, when I did work out which way it was meant to go, I glued it on. And then carried on, well, gluing Great Unclean One bits to him and the vehicle. So yeah, where possible, I wanted to try and use the bits that were sort of still part of him, rather than trying to make all of these big gaps filled with the old... Again, I always forget what this stuff's called. It's not the green stuff one, it's the other one that's obviously a lot cheaper. Not as sort of detailed, but it's great for filling in rather large areas. So yeah, my desk did start getting a bit messy with, say, clippings and bits and bobs, and yeah, I don't like it when it gets too messy. So every now and then I have to have a bit of a clean up, and then I can carry on. So those panels that I recently glued on looked a little bit too plain, so I've got a few more of the old little greebly bits from obviously the tank, just to sort of stick them in, just to, well, give it a bit of well, a bit of character. Say, it just looked too plain otherwise. So obviously once this all gets painted, it'll all sort of tie in, especially when you see when I start putting in the old filler. Yeah, it does look very noticeable. That's why I do love when I do the old the black priming. It just sort of ties everything in really nicely. So as I didn't want to make it look like he was just sort of sitting in the vehicle, I've got a few more of the greebly bits, and I'm going to put them on his body, just so it looks like he really is sort of fused with this vehicle. Rather than sort of like say sitting on it going for a ride. So yeah, it's just a case of getting loads of little sort of greebly bits and then gluing them where possible. Yeah, so the glue I've got, for some reason, I don't know if it's cold, but it takes ages coming out of the tube. So sometimes you will see me holding it and it looking like the camera's frozen, but it's not. It's me just squeezing the bottle as hard as I can to try and get the glue out. So yeah, there's loads of cool little bits that I wanted on him. Yeah, no real pad. I mean, this kind of looks like a bit of a shoulder pad. But yeah, so I got a few bits on him, and so that arm bit, or his original arm, had a tentacle on it. So I thought I'd cut that bit out separately, and yeah, that fits just nicely on his arm, and looking like it's kind of like wrapping around bits of the vehicle, which again just sort of ties it all in. And yeah, using a good old Dremel tool, now I've found it, I just want to use it lots. I cut off a nice little back bit to slot a bit in. And yeah, I wanted to get this on him. Almost looked like it was kind of like a tattoo sort of put on his arm, and I was going to melt it and put it on. Unfortunately, my little lighter ran out of gas, so I couldn't do that. But later on I do go through and, well, I cut his arm and then sort of slot it in. So yeah, green stuff, obviously great. This is lovely and detailed for sort of small miniature work, but filling big gaps it's not very good because obviously it's very expensive. So I'm using this stuff, which I know I've used before quite a few times, and I forgot the name of it. Yeah, if anyone doesn't know, my name's John, and I've got a very bad memory. When I say a bad memory, I mean shockingly bad. But the good thing is, it's always been bad. So it's not dementia, but then again, if it was, I wouldn't know because I've got a bad memory. Anyway, I'm digressing. So yeah, mixing this stuff together took quite a while because the stuff I'm using, I've had this in the drawer probably about a good year or more. But yeah, once it was soft, yeah, it seems to be all right. It dried okay, so it just goes to show this stuff can last quite a long time. And yeah, it just goes to sort of filling in all the gaps, and then obviously sort of trying to manipulate it to make it look like it's still parts of his flesh. So I've not just sort of smudged it in, I've given it some sort of like lines, a little bit of texture, a little bit of sort of detail here and there. And yeah, I had fun doing this. The whole kit bashing project, so much fun. Obviously it's nice to sort of put a miniature together and paint one, but I think sometimes there's even more joy when you're making the miniature, obviously not from scratch because, well, most of this is obviously grey plastic, but yeah, kit bashing is a lot of fun. That's why I bought quite a lot more sort of kits from Chaos Cards. Got quite a lot of miniatures, and I say quite a few vehicles. But yeah, none of these vehicles are going to ever look how they're meant to look. And again, this is because I don't actually play Warhammer 40k. I love the kill teams, so obviously I've got a few kit bashing ideas for some of the figures for some kill teams. But yeah, some of these larger models and vehicles, yeah, who knows what they're going to end up as. So as well as filling in the large gaps that obviously I've kind of created by cutting this thing up, there's still a few sort of join lines. But obviously I've tried to push it together, but it's not quite sort of met. Yeah, just small little lines, but obviously these will show up quite a bit when I come to paint it. So as I am obviously filling in areas, it's definitely worth going round and yeah, trying to fill in as much as I can, just so it looks like it's one nice complete model. Yeah, didn't do too bad a job at this, although there was one little bit on the arm that I noticed right near the end that I hadn't quite done, but luckily you can only really see it if you look up close. So yeah, getting this on, say I kind of wanted it to look like it was almost a tattoo on his arm. Yeah, so cut a bit out and then yeah, sort of pushed it in, filled it in with a little bit of filler, and it's good to go. So there we are, that's kind of him done. So loving how he looks. Yeah, I love it. It's kind of exactly what I kind of had in my mind, kind of. So now, yeah, good old time to paint, and obviously I'm sticking with my good old method, which obviously works really well for me. Obviously there's a lot of larger areas on this dude though. Normally with the slap chop method, it does work exceedingly well for highly detailed miniatures. But say this guy is detailed, but there's quite a lot of flat areas, especially on the vehicle. So it's interesting to see just how well doing the old dry brushing and then just only using speed paints, how it's going to look for this dude. So yeah, anyone who hasn't seen any of my previous videos, what I always do, prime in black, dry brush grey, and then a dry brush in white. And then when I come to use the speed paints, this just helps with obviously the shadows, the highlights, mid-tones, low tones, high tones. Yeah, you guys know I don't have a clue of any of the technical terms when it comes to painting. I just like slapping it on. But yeah, it does obviously help a whole lot. So you could just paint this thing white and then go straight on with the speed paints, because obviously the speed paints are meant to go on a white primed base. But yeah, I like to do this just because it does add a bit more detail, definitely more contrast in the whole thing. So yeah, this is how he looks, and yeah, I mean I love this look. It's kind of like a ghostly look. So yeah, using the speed paints, as you can tell, I've obviously painted all the lids, and I primed the lids in black, dry brushed them, so I could see exactly how the colours would come out. So I looked online to see how this guy was painted, and the two sort of main colours seem to be kind of like a light greenish or a light sort of skin colour-ish kind of thing. So yeah, that's why I was having a look at the two that I had, and I fancied the idea of going more skin colour than green. I think just because for me green is, well, it's an orc. Orcs are green, so how dare anything else be green other than orcs? And then yeah, it's a case of just painting this. So one thing you need to be careful of though when you are painting with speed paints is not to get paint on any parts that well, aren't that colour, because obviously then they disfigure it. Well, no, not disfigure it, they obviously make a mess of it, so when you come to use whatever colour should go on that thing, that looks a mess. So yeah, as good as obviously speed paints are, you need to be more careful not to go over areas, well, you don't want to go over. And yeah, so just painting this up, as you can see, obviously in the recesses, nice and dark, on the sort of like really high edges, lovely and light, and then a sort of a tone in between. So yeah, speed paints give you those sort of three tones in one, which is just, yeah, just amazing, and great for the well, the nude painter like me. This can make your miniatures just pop and look half decent. Obviously there is a lot more you could do to this. Once it's all done, you could go over and do highlights and add more colours and all the rest of it. I've tried it a few times, but generally, yeah, I don't. Other thing you might have noticed, yeah, I like to paint straight out of the pot. Main reason for this, there's no waste. The brush is always clean before it goes in. Obviously wet and dirty when it comes out. Who are, madam? But yeah, I don't like pouring the paint into like a palette of any kind, because obviously, well, you're wasting a bit each time. And as we know, this hobby isn't cheap. Everything costs money. So yeah, so if you can save money here and there, then do it. But obviously if you are going to paint from the pot, 3D print a little pot holder just so you don't spill it. luckily, touch wood, I've never spilt this kind of pot or Citadel pot. Yeah, I am still spill free, pot free, yeah, whatever. Anyway, going back to this, yeah, I love painting now. So I did actually paint, video quite a lot of me painting this, because my last miniature that I painted, I kind of got so engrossed in the painting and enjoying it, I kind of forgot about the videoing. So yeah, this time I made sure I did sort of, I made sure I filmed quite a lot of it. So yeah, I'm just kind of go through showing you the main colours that I am using on this. So this is where I wasn't too sure how the paint would look. Obviously painting large flat panels. But again, I think this is where the dry brushing is good, because I purposely tried to dry brush with the white stronger in the sort of centre of panels and then less to the edges. Just so again, this would give a little bit of a difference in the contrast. And yeah, I think it kind of worked quite well. I say I'm definitely pleased with how this looks. And if I did play Warhammer 40k games, then yeah, I'd happily have this dude on a table. But as I don't, he's kind of going to sit on a shelf for a bit. But what I might actually do is take it down to a local game shop and, well, let them have it. Because like, I'm never going to use this dude. He really is just going to sit around on my desk gathering dust. And as pretty as he is, yeah, he's probably going to end up in a in a cupboard somewhere as well. So yeah, guys, any ideas what I should do with this this miniature? Let me know, because at the moment he is going to end up, yeah, probably going in the cupboard. Right, so I've just seen how long this video currently is, so I'm going to whiz through the next bit really quick, and let's get a super time lapse going. So now this is what you call well, speed painting. Obviously it took me a bit longer than this when I was actually doing it. I think all in all I probably spent, I don't know, about maybe 6 hours or so on the whole sort of like assembly, kit bashing, all the rest of it. So yeah, it wasn't too bad, obviously, all in all. Yeah, really pleased how it came out though. So in my mind this was kind of what I wanted him to look like, and yeah, he kind of came out just how I liked it. So yeah, last sort of thing I kind of did here was a bit of dry brushing with some silver, just trying to catch the edges, just to obviously lighten them up and make it look like it is sort of metallic. And then yeah, there's him done. Yeah, really pleased. So obviously with his base, well, say, because I'm not going to play this game, I didn't really want to sort of spend ages on a base, so I've kept it completely well, as easy and quick as I could, and basically I'll just put on the grass, and there you go, simple as that. That's how they do it on other videos, isn't it? And yeah, just a case of sticking him on, and well, let's have a look at the glamour shots. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Yeah, apologies, it's kind of a bit of a long one, this one. Not too sure why that happened, but there you go. Yeah, don't forget to leave some comments down below. Let me know what you thought about this video, and say any ideas for future kit bashing. Yeah, by all means let me know them as well. I just want to say a big shout out and thank you to all my patrons for helping support the channel, and my newest one, Commissar Snake, as well as Chaos Cards. So don't forget, guys, link in the description. You get a discount code for Chaos Cards off their miniatures, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, video up on the screen, guys. Give that one a click and share where possible. Okay, guys, you all take care. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. See you in the next one. Bye for now.